Hello and welcome to another session of another live session, effectively. Today we are going to be following on from some of the conversations we had last time. And if you missed last time, just want to highlight that these lives are a part of a series of sessions that we're going to be doing over the coming weeks. We're going to be trying to cover a number of different topics. Assalamu alaikum and welcome. Cool. Good to see we've got a lot of people joining with us today. I just wanted to say that this is a this live is going to be part of a series of sessions that we're going to be doing over the coming weeks, where we're going to be just trying to mix it up, get it a bit kind of a little bit more interactive, and get some kind of discussion with you guys. I'm hoping to do some lives as well with other people as well. Get some. We've got some really interesting people within our network, so we're going to kind of exploit that. And get people from various aspects of our network in relation to kind of health and interrelated subjects of health as well. We've got some really interesting people who are involved in kind of food production, who are involved in farming, who are involved in supplement companies and various aspects, which all interrelate into some of the subjects which you guys will be super interested to explore with me, I'm pretty sure. Now, I have got a couple of areas or a couple of sections that I want to cover today, and we do have a theme of the session today, which I'm going to be covering. So I will try to get into that. However, if you are, if you want to join in with some comments and questions, then feel free to do so. Well, hello, all the way from Tanzania, one of the players I think we worked with back in Egypt when we were there. And Official Hassan, nice to meet you all. Farouk, Assalamu alaikum, Zuleika, all of you guys, welcome, and welcome to the live. Okay, today I want to try and keep it. Oh, we've got Fabzi with us, Fatima, one of our old practitioners who worked with us all the way from Zambia. Nice to have you with us. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to get straight into it because I want to try and keep this session a little bit shorter than last time. Last time it was a little bit long, even though I enjoyed delivering it. I know it can be quite long, and obviously, it's coming up to the time of opening fast and things like that as well. So I know that I want to try and keep it short today. Okay, so so miss you too, Fabzi. Missing you too, Fatima. Okay, so we're going to get straight into it. And the topic today I want to discuss, and it is based around something which I actually saw recently. So not yesterday, but the day before, I was out working with some of the heavyweight boxing athletes that we work with. I was working with two fighters, one who was from the States, and it's called Gerard Washington. He fought. He fought Deontay Wilder, and the other one was Derek Chisora. So I was working with them both. I had a really cool conversation with Gerard. It was the first It was the first time I'd met Gerard, and we were discussing certain elements of his function and his performance, and we were generally discussing kind of strategy of training. Now, without going into his case into too much detail, I want to focus on this because I come across this so much, and it's a conversation which I tend to have quite frequently, but I haven't really shared it so much publicly. Assalamu alaikum, Cupping World, all the way from Denmark. Welcome, salam. Great to have you with us. Okay, so the topic that I want to discuss today is I want to discuss this philosophy that we have in so many aspects, not just in terms of fitness and health. You can even talk about it in terms of religion. Sometimes people have this certain aspect as well. And in terms of their careers, in terms of finance, in all sorts of aspects of life, we have this concept where we have got this approach, and people have this approach where they have a philosophy of just, what they call the grind, just grinding and just basically working so hard to achieve what you want to achieve. Now, I have a complete understanding and kind of alignment with people who are driven on a goal, who are driven to achieve, and they want to be successful in life, and they have all of these different aspirations. And I think it's an amazing thing to have. A life without direction and purpose is one which is difficult to kind of to kind of have fulfilled, right? You need to have a purpose. You need to have a goal that you're striving towards. And, if this is something you guys are not doing, by the way, I really encourage you to do it, to set out goals, set out 6-monthly goals, set out, the goals for your life, to have an ambition to move towards whatever it is that you want to try and achieve. But I'm going to draw it back because I'm kind of diverging a little bit. But what I want to do is like I said, I have so many people who will come in for treatment, and they'll come in for what I class as breakdown care, right? So they come in when their body is, it just can't take any more of whatever it is they're doing, whether it's their training, whether it's their work, whether it's just their life and the way that they're living their life, right? They're living a life in which they are just, abusing their body, right? And they're just working their horse harder and harder and harder and harder. And when I say working their horse, if you ever come across any of my other content, you'll know that I usually make an analogy of the human body and our relationship with it like a horse and a rider, like someone who's riding a horse. And I say that sometimes you can have someone who has a relationship with a horse in which they are constantly kind of just punishing the horse, right? They're getting as much as they can out of it. Now, the horse might be running and you might be achieving for now, but it's only going to be a matter of time where, the oppression that you're putting upon your body and upon that horse is going to come to an end, right? Because the horse is going to either, give in, or, something's going to happen and the relationship's going to break down. It's like any type of relationship. If you are in a relationship where you are abusing the other party, then it's not going to last. Now, I want you to think about this. You might think, oh, well, who would abuse someone else? I would never do anything like that. An abuser is a bad person. But, the reality is that you could be the abuser. You could be the person who's abusing, and you could be the person who's abusing not anyone else, but yourself, right? And this is something which, I see so often in clinic with the nicest and the purest people. But when I go through their health history, what do I discover? I discover that this person is an absolute abuser. They're abusing themselves, they're abusing their body, they're abusing their mind, they're abusing their health. And they are doing it for sometimes a personal goal, right? And many, many times they're doing it for other people, right? They are ruining themselves in order to, and sacrificing themselves in order to help other people. Now, how have I gone from talking about a heavyweight boxer to what is in my mind right now, which is the average or the everyday mother and the everyday woman, right? Who is at home, who is, working hard, holding the family together, looking after the kids, trying to keep everyone happy, sometimes looking after the parents, looking after the in-laws, looking after the neighbors, looking after everyone else except themselves, right? And they feel that they can carry on going like this. And, I often see these people when they get to breaking point where, I can literally, pull the cases out of my book, and I can reminisce on all of these cases where I have ladies who come in, and not just ladies, obviously this is men as well. And I have to kind of shout the corner of the men, is that sometimes from the corner of the men, when it comes to self-sacrifice and all of these things, it's not as obvious as you might think. Sometimes, people have a view where they think, okay, you know what? There's a husband or there's a man and he's just working, and all he cares about his work. But again, sometimes that's not always the case. There's a reason behind why he's working behind his work. And I'm one of those, okay? I've been there. I've been in a situation where my wife said to me, all you care about is your work. You don't care about me. You don't care about the kids. You don't care about us. And, it's a very difficult situation to help other people to understand, is that no, that's not the case at all. Actually, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I care about my family and I want to provide for them and I want to be doing X, Y, and Z. So this concept of self-sacrifice, it's applicable to everyone. So don't feel like I'm just saying, I'm just, pulling that violin out for the ladies and saying, okay, you know what, it's all the ladies who do this. It is very much that is, I would say, more so. I would say that, there's more drive within the women, obviously, to do the obvious aspects of looking after everyone. But again, I'm diverging off the topic. The point is, I get people who come into the clinic and they say to me that, they have an injury, they have a problem, they have a health crisis, they have something going on. And they turn around and they say to me that, you know what, I just can't, I can't take the time to go through this recovery. I can't take the time to work on my own health. So they'll come and they'll be in incredible pain. They'll be in a situation where they've got certain problems and they can't move their limbs, or they can't move their arm, or they're in agony and they're taking pain medication, and their life is just being turned upside down because they've got to a point where they're at breaking point. Now, at this point, at breaking point, they cannot go and carry on their daily life. They can't go and help their children. They can't look after their family members. They can't help their parents. They can't do all of the things that they want to do and which they normally do, because they have come to a crisis. Their health has come to a crisis where they're in a breakdown situation. Now, the explanation or the answer to me is that, can you help me get back on my feet? And now when we do that and they have treatment and we do things to help them and alleviate the symptoms, what do they go back and do? They go back and abuse their body. They go back to square one, and they go back to doing the things they did that got them in the problem place in the first place. And it's only a matter of time before they're going to go back and do the same thing. Okay. Now, what the point I'm getting at, right, is that you can't go on abusing your body, and you need to recognize that your body, your physical body, has a right over you, right? From the Islamic traditionals, we say it has a haqq. Your body has a haqq. It has a right over you. And if you abuse it, then you will see the consequences of it. There'll be repercussions to that. Okay. So you have the responsibility to look after yourself. You have the responsibility to look after your body. And physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, in all aspects. Now, if you don't, what I want you to understand is that you are sabotaging not just yourself, but you're sabotaging the results that you want to achieve. You're sabotaging your family and the children and the parents and the husband and the wife and the family that you want to serve, right? You're sabotaging them. How are you doing that? Because you're taking them on a journey with you. You're saying, look, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to serve you, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to do this. And you're driving a car, right? And you're driving on your journey, and you are refusing to pull over to fuel up. You refuse to pull over to fuel up, right? So it's a bit of a fool mentality, right? You're driving your car and you say, sorry, I don't have time to fuel up. Okay. Now, let's take this back to the analogy that I gave with people who are training, right? Because I am covering a wide number of bases here. I'm talking about, the sit-at-home mum who's, working, doing housework, cleaning the clothes, looking after the children, cooking the food, doing a bit of, charity work here, maybe helping out in, the community organization, doing this, doing that. And she's doing all of these things, and she's sacrificing herself in the process, right? I'm talking about the high-end athlete who is training, who wants gains, who wants to increase in his muscle mass, and he wants to increase in size, and he wants to do this, and he wants to do that, and he wants to achieve, and he wants the title, and he wants all of these different things. Both ends of the spectrum are suffering with the same problem. Self-sabotage, okay? You are sabotaging yourself with the philosophy and with the idea that you just have to pound. Just keep on pushing through, push through the pain. Ignore your body, ignore the suffering, ignore the symptoms, ignore everything. If I can push through the pain, then I'll carry on, I say to people when I'm assessing them, okay, when I do this, is that painful? Does it hurt? And they say, no, it's normal. And I say, well, what do you mean by normal? I say, yeah, it hurts, but that's normal. That's not normal. Okay, when you are abusing your body and you have a miscommunication, when you're ignoring your body. Now, whether you're a high-end athlete or whether you are someone who is an everyday person, right, you can be doing the same thing. So this idea that you just need to grind, you need to work hard, you need to put in the hours, you need to lose sleep, you need to just keep taking the caffeine, the energy drinks and the coffee and whatever it is, the ephedrine and the all these different things that people are using in the sports performance industries and in everyday life, whether you're a student, whatever it is. You're just pushing yourself, and you're sabotaging yourself. Now, the essence of what I'm talking about here, and the lesson what I'm talking about here, and this is something which I've worked with athletes as well, which has really changed the game for them. This very one piece of advice, right? This one piece of advice, which I would say would, put all of the value that someone's ever paid for the services they received with us and with me and what I do, is this one piece of advice, okay? And I'm ready to share that with you, and I will give it to you. Louis, nice to have you with us as well. Hamilton's Honor. If you're in Leicester, you got to check out that gym. It's an amazing place, beautiful place, owned by a really, really nice guy. So you got to check that out. Welcome. Okay, so that advice that I'm saying is that you need to change your strategy. Okay, it's not about pushing hard, it's about pushing smart. Okay, it's not just about training hard, it's about training smart. You need to change your strategy. And I want to give you some practical examples of how this is true. And that is, you can see in this, look in the sports and performance industry, right? Is the strongest man in the world the toughest man in the world? Okay, question. Is the person who can lift the heaviest weights the person who is the heavyweight champion, the champion of the world in fighting? The answer is no, right? Does strength always equate to success? Does how hard you push always to equate to the success that you achieve? The answer is no. Okay, the people who are the most wealthiest people in the world, the people who are the most successful people in the world, the people who have gone from the bottom to the top, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people who have inherited wealth and all these sorts of things. I'm talking about the people who've achieved success in life. Have they done it by grinding completely? Yes, there is a certain degree of grind. There is a certain degree of, you need to be willing to take the road which is a little bit more difficult, okay? But there needs to be balance. We're people of the middle path. There's balance. You have to have balance in everything that you do. So what I'm saying here is that it's not about training hard. It's about training smart. And when you train smart, what you realize is that rest is important, right? Rest is extremely important. If you don't fuel your tank, how are you going to keep going, right? And when it comes to sports and performance, if you think about it, if you're not working on rest and recovery, where's your growth happening? Growth doesn't happen in the gym. Growth doesn't happen while you're lifting weights. Growth happens while you're resting and while your body's in the recuperative phase. If you look at the physiological elements behind what's happening with your physiology when you train and when you do all these sorts of things, I want you to understand that this is something which is an extremely important concept. And now if we roll it back even further and we go to the concept that people have where they say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice my health for what I want to achieve. I came across a very interesting character recently, and that character was someone who was taking large amounts of caffeine, was staying up crazy amounts of hours at a time. He was setting himself deadlines of his work, and he was involved in editing and all these different things, and he was pushing himself so much, and it was like. And I asked him, I said, why are you doing that? Like, why do you stay up, sometimes 24 hours? Why do you do that? Why do you push yourself through that? And he said, because I'm going to achieve what I'm going to achieve regardless. I'm going to make it happen. And the reality is you can push yourself, to work 24 hours on the trot. But how efficient are you in those 24 hours? How efficient are you going to be? Right? Now, there may be circumstances where, the situation may come where, okay, whatever field of work you're in, you may be required to do this sort of thing, but it shouldn't become a habit. It shouldn't become a philosophy or a mindset. And some people think that is the right way to achieve success. That's not the right way to success. You have to understand that your system, your body, and your health requires a balance, right? It requires a balance of, going from a sympathetic dominant state, a state where your sympathetic nervous system is engaged, to a parasympathetic nervous system engagement, where your body goes from the stress response to the relaxation and the rest response. This is where your rest, recovery, your repair happens, and the stress is where you're pushing yourself and you're stimulating your body with the stimulus. You have to have a balance between the two. If you do this for too long, then I ask the question, and this is the conversation I have with mums, with ladies often who I see in clinic, and I say to them, look, I want to ask you a question. If you fail, if your health goes to a point where you can't continue to serve anymore, and you get to the point where you can't, it's not just that you're not able to serve other people, but what about you're not even able to serve yourself? What if you get to that point where you're not able to look after yourself? You now are at a point where you're not the one who's helping and caring for other people, but other people need to care for you. What are you going to do in that situation? What does life look like in that situation? You know what the sad thing is, and the strange thing is that quite often those very people who have sacrificed themselves to serve other people, when they are in the moment of need, then quite often, if I was to say to them, who would you want to come and serve you? Their answer they wouldn't have an answer, because they are so selfless in the way that they see themselves is they say, well, you know what, I wouldn't want my daughter to have to come and look after me and care for me because she's got her own life, she's got her own children. I wouldn't want my son to do that because he's doing this and he's doing that. I wouldn't want my husband to do that. I wouldn't want to be a burden on other people. And they come across with these concepts where they have a realization and they recognize that, you know what, I can't afford to break down. I can't afford to run out of fuel. So in the past, these very people were saying, I can't afford to, I can't afford to stop to fuel up, right? And now when we flip the coin and we flip the perspective, the very people are saying that, you know what, I can't afford to fail. I can't afford to break down, because that would be real failure, right? Stopping and pausing to fuel up is one thing, and breaking down so that you're never able to carry on in the future is another thing. So I want to highlight this to you, as I said, from a emotional perspective as well, from a family perspective, on so many elements, right? But in the same way, I see athletes, especially in the field of football as well. I see people who are pushing themselves. They don't focus on rest. They don't focus on recovery. They just focus on the grind. They work harder and harder and harder. And you know what's interesting is they train themselves into the ground. All right, they work themselves harder and harder and harder. There's a wisdom behind success. And if you look at those people who have been the most successful in life, you look at the footballers who have got the longest footballing career, you look at the boxers who have achieved the most and had the longest careers, what is the ingredient that they all have? They invest in their own recovery. They don't abuse their bodies. They don't abuse their physical, mental, and emotional states. They give time to themselves, this is something that we all need to do now, especially even in this time, right? We are currently in the month of Ramadan, right? So for those who are participating in Ramadan and those Muslims out there who are fasting, and we recognize and we see that this month is a month of, huge opportunity. We see this a month where there are so many people who are, who recognize that, we see that this month is a month of opportunity in the sense that, what our investment, the investment we put in is multiplied by a minimum of 70 times, right? So everything we put in, we want to grind now. Now is the time to grind. Now is the time to kind of put in. But remember, pace yourself, right? You don't want to get into the first few days of the month of Ramadan and then you knock yourself out because you did 4 days of just non-stop, and then you spend the next 2 days where you don't even fulfill the obligatory requirements because you're so dead, right? So I want to build you into the concept of understanding the importance of consistency and understanding the importance of doing things in moderation, right? Doing something little and often as opposed to doing something, just all of a sudden in once. Okay, question there, do we still offer hijama training? Yes, we do. I just recommend you check the links in our bio to find out more. Okay, so by the way, I forgot to mention at the start that if you are, for these concepts, we're going to be sending out kind of articles, and we've got a campaign of content which you're going to be sending out as well via email. So if you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, please do sign up for that. And check out our YouTube page as well, because we're going to be having live sessions on there, which aren't going to be shared on our Instagram page. So there's going to be additional content there for you guys to benefit from. Okay, so I want to try and wrap it up. I don't want to keep this session too long. So the purpose, the crux of what I'm saying here is that we always underestimate what we can achieve in kind of the long term, and we're always trying to, for those people who are career driven, results driven, focused, and a lot of the time it will be, the men particularly, but it's everyone in society nowadays. We live in a society where everything is based on instant gratification. You want to start trading stocks, and you want to find some trade which gives you a times 100 return within your first week. You want to start starting a business, and you want to start having 100,000 followers on Instagram in your first 6 months, right? Or whatever it is, right? You want the quick fixes. And as a result of those quick fixes, what do people start doing? People start using strategies of self-sabotage, right? And social media is a perfect example, right? Perfect example. You get impatient with that. What you do, you end up resorting to using tactics and things which actually ruin your content, ruin your pages, ruin whatever it is that you do. People who are in sports performance industries, you start training and you want your results quick. You're not happy with the quick, the small and the gradual gain. So you start using drugs, you start using, anabolic steroids, you start using, weight loss tablets, you start doing things which are jeopardizing and they are sabotaging rather your success in the long run, right? So if you're in it for the long game, and you understand that, and you don't underestimate what you can achieve in 5 years, in 10 years, and you have the picture of, this is what it's going to take. And if you don't have this short-term mentality, then you're not going to self-sabotage. You're not going to sacrifice yourself, okay, so that you are then, under the bus in order to try and achieve what you're trying to achieve. And do you know the irony of it is at the end of it is that you don't even serve that purpose. So, you don't achieve your goal and you sacrifice yourself in the process. Okay. I'm sure you've all heard it before, but there's the quote, the Dalai Lama quote where he says that, man sacrifices his health in order to make money, and you can say in order to achieve success. And then he sacrifices his money or sacrifices his success in order to recuperate his health, right? So I want you to, I want you to just bear this in mind, and I want you to think about, is this something which is applicable to you? Is there something, or is there a field in your life where you think that you're focusing too much on on sacrificing yourself in the process? You're not seeing the long-term gain. You're not investing yourself in the long term. Your vision is too short-sighted. Okay. And, like I said, the same concept, the same principles I'm describing, as I said, they're applicable to a stay-at-home mum, right? Who is, self-sabotaging. She doesn't have time for exercise. She doesn't have time to focus on her own health. She doesn't have time to focus on her body and all of these different things. And instead she's saying, I just need to provide for other people. What is she doing? She's sabotaging herself and she's sabotaging everyone around her. Why? Because if she really wants to be there to serve her children and to be serving her grandchildren and be around and be able to contribute to them, then she needs to pull back on what she's giving right now. Okay. You can't, it's like a boxing match. You can't go in first round and, you want to use all your energy within the first minute, and then, you're gassed out within the first minute, and then, the game's over, and then you get eaten up by the lion at the end of it because you don't have any energy to pull yourself through. Okay, so I hope you've got the gist of what I'm saying. And rest is not always bad. As I said, I have some athletes that I've worked with, and they've taken the advice of, focusing more. I've actually got someone who I was working very closely with, and his game plan changed because he was focused on resting more, on recovering more, and training less. He was pushing less with his weights. He was pushing less with his what he was doing with his output, and he was focusing more on rest, recovery, and the stuff outside of the gym. And he achieved more in terms of his career and in terms of his success by using that strategy than he had with his previous approach, which was just push. Okay, so I want you to see, investing into yourself. I want you to see this rest phase. I want you to see this self-investment phase like a slingshot. Okay, sometimes you might feel, okay, I'm going back. And you go back and then you let go and you get propelled forward, okay? So I want you to see it in that context. I want you to see it in that mindset. That every time you let yourself go back a little bit, you say, okay, I'm going to pause my study for a little while just to clarify my mind. I'm going to clear my mind. I'm going to focus on my breath. I'm going to focus on relaxing. I'm going to focus on just absorbing the here and now, okay? And absorbing where I am and being grateful for what I've achieved. This is the other thing that people forget to do, okay? And again, I always say that this is a concept within the Islamic traditions. There's a verse in the Quran, which mentions, Inni shakartum zidana lakum. That indeed, those of you who are grateful, indeed I will increase you. If you're grateful, I will increase you. So this is a promise from God, effectively, in the Islamic traditions, that if you're grateful, I'll increase you. Now, this is in every aspect. If you are pushing, and sometimes, there's no problem in being goal orientated, right? There's no problem in driving for what you want to achieve and creating a strategy to achieve that. However, a lot of people go at this from a place of of ingratitude. You have a place where you're not happy with your situation at all. You have no gratitude or gratefulness for what you achieved, and you're always saying that I want more, I want more, I want more. You achieve one level, you want more. You're not happy with where you are, and you're constantly in a phase of life where you're unhappy. And again, it reminds me of another narration which mentions that, if you give, nothing will fill the son of Adam's mouth except the dust in his grave. If you give him a mountain of gold, he'll ask for another one. Okay, so it's saying that there is this concept within us as human beings that we have this, we have this tendency, and Allah says in the Quran, actually in that verse, He says the son of Adam. He's talking about all of mankind, right? And He's saying that we have this tendency that we're just greedy and we want more. Now, there's no problem in aspiring for more, because we live in a world and we have this concept, and it's a very important concept, that we live in a world of abundance, right? And we have, and it's important to have this mentality that there's so much out there. If someone else eats, you're not losing out, okay? If someone else is successful, you're not losing out. Actually, that we live in a world of abundance, and there's enough for everyone, and God can keep giving, right? He can keep giving and giving and giving and giving, and his dominion doesn't diminish, right? So this concept of abundance, right? The universe is huge, the world is great, there's so much here. And even now, we're talking about people wanting to talk about population control and how the world isn't big enough for all of us. It's all a lie. That's all absolute rubbish. There's enough on this earth for every single human being that exists. There's enough for us to have our own land. There's enough for us to have our own food. There's enough for us to be sustainable and to carry on in our growth. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist on this planet if that was the case. The only difference is that there's some people who are asking for the extra mountain and have the extra mountain, the other mountain, the other mountain, the other mountain, and through greed they have consumed the resources of the world. Anyway, diverging to another topic. My point is that we live in a world of abundance. There's so much out there, so we should always know and appreciate that we can always have more. God can always give you more, right? However, what you also need to understand and appreciate is that you should be grateful for what you have. Okay, you're grateful for what you have, and you know that God can give you more, right? Because God is abundant, right? You have that mindset. Now, this is the same when it comes to your health. Be grateful for what you have, right? And grateful for what you've achieved. So if you're striving and you're striving and you're striving and you're striving, be grateful for what you've achieved, right? If you've got children and you want to try and help them with this and help them with that, be grateful for what you've already helped them with, and focus on that and what you've already achieved. You've brought these kids up, and you get parents nowadays, they want to do everything for their children. You want to be there to support them in their marriage every step of the way. You want to support them financially and all these things. Actually, I read a book which was quite an interesting book. What was the name of the book? It was called The Millionaire Next Door. Yeah, and if you haven't read that book, I would really recommend, especially if you've got kids. But even if you haven't, and the interesting it taught in that book, one thing I found really fascinating is that people who have wealth, the more they contribute to their offspring, the poorer their offspring will become. Okay, so think about this. The more you contribute, or the more you give, the more they give their offspring and their their dependents, or the more people you allow people to be dependent upon you, the more dependent they will become. Right, so this is an interesting topic and an interesting case, and I don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but I do want to share with you because it was a gem from that book. Basically, there were people who were very, very wealthy, and some of them, what they did, and this isn't something which is applicable from what I understand within the Islamic traditions, because we can't do this without inheritance. However, what they did is when they inherited to their children, they said that the inheritance was only allowed to go to them when they achieved an age of maturity, like the age of 45 or 50 or whatever it was. And that prior to that, they had zero. Okay, zero support, zero inheritance, zero anything. And the individuals that did this, the wealthy individuals that did this with inheritance, the net worth and the financial kind of level that their offspring achieved was far greater than those who had much more wealth to pass on inheritance and who provided that wealth. Okay, so an interesting concept. Now, when you're looking at providing and supporting other people, when you're talking about providing and supporting for your family and your children and all of these things, I'm not saying don't do anything for them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying abandon your children and hide away in a retreat and spend all your money on spas pampering your nails. I'm not saying that to the men as well as the women, right? What I'm saying is is you need to attain balance. You need to look at the long-term journey. Don't sabotage yourself in the long run. Think of yourself, can I continue to do this every single day? Someone gave me a beautiful piece of advice when I first married. Alhamdulillah, thank to God, I've been married for 16 years now, right? And in that time, I can remember someone gave me some advice right at the start of my marriage, and he said, start as you plan to proceed. Okay, so don't don't overproduce and don't over deliver right at the beginning if you don't expect to do that every single day, right? So basically he's saying, don't take your wife breakfast in bed every single morning, if you don't plan to continue to do that for the rest of your life, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. Okay, there's honeymoon periods and all these other things, right? So this is something which I would say that is something you need to think about. It's not just don't take my advice as it is. However, I would recommend you to think about things in the long run. Okay, so like I said, resting, recovery, recuperation, investing into your health, taking time out to have treatment, maintenance care, time out just to think, going for a walk alone in the park, going away and just clearing your mind. It's not selfish. Okay, it's not selfish to spend money on your own health. It's not selfish to spend time on your own health. It's not selfish to work on your own kind of mental health, right? These things are all things which are really, really important. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. Gratitude and contentment is the essence of life. I've sent messages, but you ignored. We get back to all of our messages. So if you have sent a message and it hasn't been received, maybe you need to check where it's going and if it's going to the right addresses. Alternatively, you can inbox us and, we can provide you a response. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up there. I hope you guys have benefited from the content today. And like I said, I've tried to keep it shorter. I have a tendency to rabble on. But yeah, so that's my message today. And if you take away anything from this, go away and invest in yourself. Think of the long run, plan out your strategy. Don't go for the short term. Don't be, a 1 minute man, want gratitude every single minute. Want everything straight away, right? I want this right now, right? Don't do that, right? Don't shortcut yourself in this way. Think of the long-term plan. Gain consistency in your life. If there's one thing, I would say, I'm quite a temperamental person. I'll start one task and I will start it and I'll be a lot of energy trying to do it, and then I'll give up, and I'll start another task and I'll give up, and I'll start another. And that's true. That is me. I'm not going to lie. Especially when it comes to DIY. I'm sure there's many other guys out there who are similar. However, when it comes to certain elements of my life and my achievements, I would say the thing that has given and allowed me to have the success that I've had in the various elements, whether it be my marriage, whether it be my business, whether it be whatever it is, it's consistency. Okay. For those of you looking on and you see us, and actually I had a patient who came in the other day and he was like, oh wow, I've seen how busy you guys are. He was like, you guys must be loaded. And I laughed because I thought to myself, man, this guy just doesn't have a clue about what's going on in the background and all of the other stuff we got to deal with and everything that's going on in our finances and all. This guy's just not got a clue. But anyway, the point being is that reminded me that sometimes onlookers, they come in, they'll see, an appearance and they have no idea of the work that's gone behind the scenes. They have no idea of the times where, we were continuing and we were consistent with our effort and our energy and what we were putting in, and the results just weren't there, right? And we weren't a multidisciplinary clinic seeing X number of patients a week and doing and making the impact that we have, and seeing the high profile athletes and all that didn't come overnight, right? This has come over after years and years and years and years and years of investment. Okay, and it's consistency. It didn't happen all at once. And actually, if you want to go into my own story and the story of the success and the failures that we've had as an organization, actually, when I first started, we did expand very fast. We had 2 clinics in London. We've had two separate clinics in Bristol, a clinic in Blackburn, a clinic in obviously in Leicester. a clinic in, and I think I mentioned 2 clinics in Cardiff, and obviously one abroad, and we actually shut clinics down, and we said, you know what, we've gone too fast. And effectively what we did is we were, for that short period of time, we thought, okay, you know what, let's take these opportunities. Now opportunities come our way and we have the opportunity to grow, and we close those doors and we say, sorry, we are not interested in a franchise in the UAE. We're not interested in this. We're not interested in that. And we've literally had people who have offered us, what you would consider an offer which you can't refuse. But we've turned it down because we know that accepting that offer is self-sabotage, right? Now, like I said, whether you're looking at this from a business perspective, whether you're looking at this lesson that I'm giving you from a health perspective, when you're looking at it from a relationship perspective, however you look at this, the advice I'm giving you is real and it's applicable to every single context and situation. It's a universal thing. And I would really recommend that you consider and apply it. Okay, we're going to wrap up there before we go on any further. Just want to remind you at the end of this session today that obviously this live is a part of a collection of live sessions that we're going to be doing over the coming weeks. Give us some topics. If you want us to talk about specific topics, give us some topics you want to talk about. I will cherry pick the ones that I want to talk about though. So you're going to just inspire my decision making as opposed to tell us exactly what we're going to do. So give us as many suggestions as you can, and I'll be willing to select from those which I feel I can contribute to the most, basically. Lowest hanging fruit, another concept. Maybe we'll talk about that next time. This is a part of a series. We're going to back this up as well with content which we're delivering out via our newsletters. If you haven't come across our newsletters, I like to keep them much shorter and sharper than these long Insta lives. So do subscribe to the newsletter to keep updated with some of the concepts and the topics we're going through. I think the general theme for a lot of the stuff I talk about is really self-exploration, self-discovery, understanding ourselves and understanding our bodies and our health. If you're interested in those sorts of things and that's something that you want to explore, then sign up for our short reads. And I'm confident that there'll be certain aspects which will hopefully enlighten you. And I love it when we get responses from those newsletters as well. So when if you subscribe to that and you enjoy a read or you have something you want to share, we will get back to you. I personally read some of I read the feedback as well. So do get in touch with us and interact with us on those platforms. So yeah, the link's in the bio for that. Also, we're having YouTube live sessions. We've started some workouts which we're trialing. So just for people who want to just push themselves a little bit during fasting. Statistically, they say that people who are during the month of Ramadan and people who are fasting, they reduce down their output during the month, which is something which I understand, but I don't think it's the best thing to do. If you really want to gain full benefits of fasting, then you shouldn't reduce down your output. I wouldn't say you should increase it massively, but you should at least keep it the same. Don't take the easy road because you're fasting. You're not really challenging yourself there. You're just turning one dial down and you're turning one up. When you're doing that, you're making yourself a little bit more uncomfortable because you're fasting, but then you're making yourself more comfortable because you're not doing the things that you're doing. So are you really pushing yourself to adaptation? Not really. Okay. Obviously, you're still getting the benefits from it, but I'm just trying to give you my little 2 pence. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there before we start talking about any other topics. Like I said, I'm a sucker for diversions. So I hope and pray that you've benefited from the content today, and I wish and pray that you have a very blessed evening. Thank you for your words, wisdom, and God bless. God bless you too, Physio Sharon. Zuleika, Jazakallah khair, very informative. Make a poll. What do you want me to make a poll on? I'll happily make a poll, but yeah, tell me what you want me to make one on. Thank you very much. Great message, and appreciate the feedback, guys. How old are you? Because I want to get married, but myself told me I'm still young. Never too young, man. Never too young. I started young. Anyway, okay, wrap it up there, guys. Peace and love. Enjoy. I actually really enjoyed doing these live sessions. That's a bit strange because it may seem like I like the sound of my own voice. That's not the case at all. I hate listening back to this stuff, but I like their interactions. But anyway, I want to do a live with someone in the future. So DM us if you're interested in jumping on a live, having a discussion. Maybe let's do it. Like I said, we've got a few people who we want to invite over the next coming weeks. But anyway, inshallah, God bless. Peace out. Remember me in your prayers. And, I hope you implement this advice in some way, shape or form.